What's up, guys? Welcome to the weekly Technicals Live session for October 14th, 2018. And we are going to start off looking at the dollar index. And I'm going to start with the weekly time frames, and then we'll drop down to the daily time frames and look at it a little bit more dialed in. But the reason I want to start with the weekly is I believe that we could have a potential high in the markets or low in the markets depending on what currency you're looking at. So I'll go over that in just a second. But we'll start with the weekly perspective and then we'll drop down to the daily. So looking at dollar index, this is the weekly chart. If you look at it, last week's candle, we had a bearish candle. So now we're within this weekly ICT bullish order block. So we've got these two down candles here, which represent two weeks worth of time, but blended together, both of these would be considered one ICT bullish order block if we were looking at a 2-week chart. So basically, if this market is going to continue higher, let me just go ahead and delete this. I'm not actually sure what this is, so I'm just going to move it off the weekly chart. So, and I believe this is 50%. So first thing I want to do is mark out 50% of this ICT bullish order block. And I believe I already got it. Yeah, okay. So 94.83, have that level on your charts. If you're using TradingView, obviously if you're using a different platform, you're going to have to calibrate it to your specific level. It may be 94.85, it may be 94.80. It should only be off by a few pips though, depending on what platform you're using. So map out these two candles and have the 50% level outlined. Once you do that, you could just delete this. So the 94.83 level is really going to be an important level to me, determining whether or not they're going to go higher or are they going to break through that and continue pushing lower. From the stance of what we have here in dollar index on a weekly basis. So intraday, I've been looking for potential buys in foreign currency, so that would mean weakness basically with dollar index. But looking at it on a higher time frame perspective, such as the weekly, what I'm thinking is they could use this ICT weekly bullish order block here as support and then start trading up for the 97 big figure. So this week particularly, I'm going to be waiting to see if we can gain some support or some strength off of these two down candles, which should give the market enough strength to push up above the highs here at 96.15, and then ultimately, if we can get some more strength from there, continue above 97 big figure. So that would be my favorite scenario for the bullish side. So if we do come down and we get below the 94.83 level, at that point we have to be considering that this market could want to go lower, take out the liquidity below 93.80 and potentially the 93.20 equal lows that are back here. So that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of a bullish idea and bearish idea. So from the weekly perspective, I'm not going to be switching to a bearish idea unless we get below 94.83. Obviously, if I'm trading, intraday or anything like that, which you guys in the premium group will get access, you have access to all my signals and stuff. So anytime that, I take a trade, and I could be taking an intraday trade that may be bullish dollar index, and that's fine. But overall, the higher time frame perspective, weekly basis, we're looking for potential higher dollar index running for the 97 big figure. And obviously if we get below 94.80, then we have to consider that they may want to take this pair lower. So let's drop down to a daily time frame, get a little bit more dialed in, and really take a look at what price action's actually doing in here. So initially we formed the high at 97 big figure, traded lower here, formed a higher low relative to this low, came back up, found some resistance, and sold off one last time. We were unable to break below this 93.70 low. So that's interesting to me. And basically, when they do decide to push this thing lower, it's clear that they're going to shoot for the liquidity here and the liquidity here and the liquidity here. Now, the reason I say that is because if you look at every low, the following move is a big move up. Following move, big move up. Following move, big move up. Following move, big move up. So there's liquidity all below the lows. So we're going to have to anticipate lower prices if we get below the 94.80 level. Okay, so that's the weekly ICT bullish order block. Now, when you drop down to a daily here, you can see that we have an ICT daily bullish order block here. So we could potentially trade a little below 94.80, maybe down into 94.60 and find support here. I don't know which level they're going to find support at, but it basically just determines, which one is proving that on the lower time frame. So we want to see the market trade into a higher time frame level and then confirm that that level is holding by forming either higher highs and higher lows for a bullish scenario and lower lows and lower highs for a bearish scenario. So as far as the daily perspective, you can see here we had the break in structure. So the market came all the way up, broke above these highs here, and then now we're trading back down. So if you look, we're just retesting an old high, which all this is break of structure, retest, so old resistance, trade back into it, now becomes support. Okay, this up candle is also an ICT bullish breaker. So that's why I'm interested to see if we can get some strength on this current on dollar index this week, which should cause weakness for foreign currency. So at the current state of the market, I don't have anything that I'm going to be looking for particularly tonight. I need to wait for Monday to finish and obviously give me a little bit more clarity as to what I want to do for the week. But I am leaning more towards the bullish side for dollar index, which should mean we can focus on selling foreign currency. Obviously, premium group, if that does change, I'll keep you guys updated and let you know via the Telegram group and the daily technicals live sessions as well. So for this, anticipate potential higher prices, but really the key thing that we're going to be focused on is that 94.80 level. How do we behave once we get down there? Do we trade through it? Do we come down and wick it and trade off of it? We need to figure that out first, in my opinion. This low that we formed on Friday could potentially be enough for us to start pushing up. Not saying that it will be, but it could. So I'm interested to see that as well, because technically, they've traded into support already. So how well that'll hold or not, I'm not really sure. We're just really going to have to see what we get through Monday. So yeah, I don't really know what to say other than that, but just keep an eye out on the 93.80 level as well as the 97 big figure level, because those are my two levels that I'm watching right now. 97 big figure as a potential target, 93.80 as a invalidation level on my bullish idea. If we break through it, then bam, switch my bias to bearish, have your stop loss above the 96.20, and you can target the lows below the market. Okay, so I don't actually trade dollar index, but that's basically how you would do it. Obviously, you would be looking to do the inverse for any foreign currency pairs that you would be trading. So with that being said, let's go ahead and we'll jump into euro dollar now. And for this, we'll start with the weekly perspective as well. And I just want to kind of show you guys, how similar these are. By just looking at dollar index, you should have noticed that we had, let me actually see if I can compare. Yeah, so if I compare dollar index, you can see, look how inverse this is. We've got two down candles. Once the up candles close above it, validates it as an ICT bullish order block. Two up candles, two down candles, close below the up candles, validated as a bearish order block. See how these are completely, they're almost like to a T inversely correlated. High formed here, low formed here, right? Bearish order block, bullish order block. Okay, so by looking at the dollar index, it really helps you, develop that clarity when you're looking at these majors, right? So Euro USD, GBP USD, Aussie, New Zealand, all that stuff. So looking at euro dollar, it's basically inverse of what we see with dollar index. So we've got a weekly ICT bearish order block here, aka resistance. For the week's close, you can see we closed relatively bullish within that candle. Nonetheless, the bodies of the candles are relatively respecting the open of this candle here, but who's to say that'll hold or not? Again, I'm not really sure. I want to let Monday go through, and that'll give me a lot more clarity as to what I want to do specifically for this pair as well. So when you're looking at this weekly ICT bullish order block, you're going to want to do the same thing that we did for dollar index. You basically just want to draw your fib on it on the 2 up candles from the open of this body to the close of this body. Now we use the bodies because that's where the most of the volume is, and that is how ICT teaches where the bulk of the orders are, and it's within the bodies of the candles. So you don't want to be focused too much on the wicks. They are and can be important, but the bodies, especially when you're mapping out higher time frame support or resistance levels, you're going to want to use the bodies. So let's change this to red for my resistance and make it a little bigger with dots. Okay. So now we know we've got our 50% level of the weekly ICT bearish order block marked out at 1.1650. So that's basically our invalidation level. We're going to be looking for continued weakness potentially on this pair in terms of the higher time frame perspective. So weekly sells, daily sells, things like that. But intraday, obviously we could have, a nice bullish move or something like that. So again, premium group, I'll keep you guys updated on that via the Telegram. But looking at the markets currently, I would like to see this pair trade back up to 1650 and show us weakness. Just don't necessarily know if that's going to be the case or not. So these 2 down candles are also known as an ICT bearish breaker, and we could be finding resistance there. So that's kind of why I'm waiting as well, right? I need to see, I need these markets to give me a confirmation before I'm just going to step in. And these are basically the confirmations I'm looking for. So 1650, if we get above that, then I'm going to be basically looking for bullish scenarios with euro dollar. But if we remain below that, I'll be looking for bearish scenarios with euro dollar. So let's go ahead and drop down to the daily now. And I know we've got a good bit of stuff going on in this chart. Basically, the only things that you guys need to be looking at are this low here, this dotted line here, and this high here, as well as this dotted line here. So I've got the daily ICT bullish order block marked out here. The 50% level comes in at 1.1505, and then I've got the high marked out as well, which comes in at 1530. And the reason that I have both of these levels marked out is, if you look, we're relatively close to the high. So I could put the open on here as well, but it's much easier to just use the high, or whichever level they're closest to. So I use the high in this case, and I also got the 50% level on just in case they do decide to poke into it a bit. This would be the lowest I would expect them to go in terms of a bullish idea. So if they do find some support here, basically, the move or what I'll be anticipating is a trade either up to this level here, which is this down candle, also an ICT bearish breaker on a daily basis. So we can get that as the resistance level, trade up into this level, which is the 50% of the weekly ICT bearish order block. So not sure which level they'll use. We're just going to wait for that confirmation that I'm always talking about. The low, the lower high, the confirmation of the lower low, and then we can look for that retest. Retest will sell it, and there we'll be looking for our target objectives. So first will be the bullish order block, and then we'll be looking for the low down here. So not sure if that is the actual scenario we'll get. We may just get strength all the way through and continue back above 1800. So, I don't really know which one's going to unfold, and that's the main reason. If I look at the charts on a Sunday like this and don't see that clarity for Monday, I typically just don't trade Monday, and I'll just wait till Tuesday till the market can prove to me or give me more details in the charts of the most probable scenario for the week. So right now I'm kind of leaning on both sides, particularly more so bullish dollar index and bearish foreign currency if you're looking at a higher time frame perspective, which is what matters. So that could be the case, but we are within, you know, key levels right now, pretty much on all the majors. So what we could be seeing is the beginning formations of a potential reversal. So, you know, that's why, you know, I'm gonna stick with my idea of potential higher dollar and weaker foreign currency until that's, you know, proved wrong by hitting my invalidation level. But up until that point, you know, that's kind of the bias that I have to stick with. But like I said, intraday, you know, if we decide to take any scalps or day trades, anything like that, 30 to 50 pip moves, you know, by all means, we don't have to be looking for sells only on euro dollar. You know, we could buy it and target this level, you know, if there's something high probability that lines up. So obviously I'll keep you guys posted on that, but you know, at current state of the market, I don't really see anything that I want to act on particularly yet, at least until Tuesday. So which reminds me, I haven't looked at the we'll take a look at the economic calendar in just a second after I go over the technicals, because I do know that we have FOMC this week. So definitely going to want to stay out of the markets for FOMC, which is Wednesday typically, so it should be Wednesday. So for this week, I'll mainly be looking for trades like Monday New York session. So I'll let Monday's trading for London go through and pretty much give me a little bit more details and clarity in the market. And Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, well, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, potentially Friday for any trade ideas, but mainly, you know, going to be focused on Tuesday and Thursday. We don't have Wednesday because of FOMC, so just keep that in mind. So for euro dollar, I'd like to see them find support at this daily bullish order block if they're going to take it higher. And if they're going to take it lower, basically I need to see weakness at either of these levels here. So anywhere between 1620 and potentially up to 1650, I'd like to see it. If we get all the way back up here to 1740, which would be this ICT bearish order block, at that point I would think they're just going to be too close to the liquidity above 1815, and they're just going to want to run it up. So for example, if we get above 1650, you know, at that point I'm basically assuming that they're going to run for 1800 liquidity, because in my opinion, I don't understand why they would want to use this bearish order block rather than just clear out the liquidity above here. So that would make more sense to me. But, you know, again, we're not really going to have to deal with that until we get to 1650. So we're about 100 pips away from that now. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But if we get below the 50% level, which is 1505 of this daily order block, at that point we'll just look for lower prices and basically target 1400 big figure, potentially down to, you know, the 1.1380s. So that's pretty much how I'll play both sides of euro dollar. And let's go ahead and move on to GBP USD now. So this one, weekly perspective, still pretty much in a nasty consolidation. One thing that I do like about this is we're seeing relatively, or not relatively, we're seeing very small body candles on here. So if you notice, small body, small body, small body, small body, typically that leads to larger candles. So you can see small body, small body, small body, small body, bigger, small, bigger, bigger. So small body, big candle, small body, big candle, small body. You see? So what I would like to see from here is I want to start getting some movement like this, right? I want to start seeing either big bearish movement, big bullish movement. I don't care what direction it is, but we should start seeing some bigger body bullish or bearish candles. Now looking at this from a weekly perspective, I don't really have an accurate answer for you guys of where I would think this would go, because technically, in terms of a technical perspective, we are working off this weekly ICT bearish order block, but we do have some liquidity resting below here that would definitely make sense to run out. So just looking at this, I can't tell if they're going to want to take it lower from here. You know, we do have a lower high in place, but you know, I don't know if they're going to want to run out the liquidity above here. So pretty much waiting for GBP USD. You know, I prefer euro dollar right now, even though GBP USD is my favorite. Obviously, you know, I got to go with whatever one's clearer. So Now looking at it on the daily perspective, looks like we actually gapped down for the week. So that's an interesting little note. So we gapped down about 60 pips on GBP USD. So, you know, we could see that dollar strength, and we could start to see maybe GBP USD start to roll over from here. So, you know, I can't make that prediction, or, you know, I guess you would call it, at this very moment though, because, you know, I just don't have the clarity with what I see in the markets right now. I really just got to let it give me some more details so I can, you know, have or at least a more accurate read of what I'm looking at. But if you look, I got the daily bullish order block marked out. I got the high and the 50% level, pretty much exactly how we did for euro dollar. Now I can take the high off, but we're within this 50% level now. So to me, it kind of looks like they're going to want to push lower from here. But again, you know, I don't really have that clear read. We're stuck in a consolidation. So either until we get above these equal highs, or at least some, you know, weakness below this low, at that point I'll have, you know, much more conviction of what to do here. But for GBP USD, I don't really have an accurate read. Being below the 50% level, they could retest this level and we could see them sell off from here. So we could just see them find resistance with where they're at and sell off below this low and potentially below these equal lows down here. Or we could see them gain some strength. This down move could become an ICT bullish order block. They could trade back down, retest that, and then they could trade above these equal highs at 1.33 big figure. So, you know, Friday, that's pretty much what I was looking at. I was expecting them, you know, if they close within this bullish order block, maybe they'll gap up for the week and then they'll take it above 33. But, you know, from the looks of it so far, we don't have that. You know, they could be wanting to take this thing lower for the week. So be safe if you're trading cable or GBP USD here, because we could get some nasty price action in this week. Personally, I want to see a break either above these highs or below this low before I go in and try trading it. Because basically how I'm looking at it is, if we get above these equal highs, you know, at very minimum, we should run this high as well, which is about an 80 pip trade, 80 to 100 pip trade. If we get below this low at 29.30, then we're more than likely going to run for the equal lows, right? So that's about 100 pips in itself as well. So those are pretty much the two that I'm watching out for in terms of the daily perspective. So I don't really know whether or not they want to continue higher with GBP USD right now, or if they're going to sell off. So sometimes you will have that, and you may not know what they're going to do. And if that's the case, you know, pretty much just do what I do. Don't trade the pair. Look at another pair and see if there's a better setup in that. And that's pretty much why I've been looking at and trading euro dollar so much. Okay, so let's move to euro GBP now. And looking at this one, last week in the weekly technicals, we were mentioning the daily liquidity that we've got below these lows down here, around the 87 big figure. So to me, I believe that they're going to want to take it lower, at least to go below there. We've just had such a sell-off that it would make sense for them to have a little retracement in here. So I've got this low marked out, which on my charts comes in at 88.50. And it's also the low of this candle. So support, market traded all the way back up, traded through it, now should be resistance. So if we trade back up into this, I'd like to see them find some resistance and potentially start rolling over, targeting these lows. So if that's the case, you know, at least with this strength, as this market is pushing higher, up at least up until it reaches this level, we should see further strength on euro dollar and either consolidation or further weakness on GBP USD. So that's why I'm leaning more towards the euro dollar trades for the week, or at least the beginning of the week. So Euro GBP, keep an eye out for this low at 88.50. I'd like to see this potentially get retested. They could even come into this bearish order block here, which comes in at the low is 88.60. So look for 88.50 up to about 88.60, 88.65. It could push, but typically I'd like to see some weakness there, and then look for the 87 big figure down here, where we've got the bodies of these candles. Relative low here, and then we've got some liquidity resting down here. So that's where I'd like to see them go on the downside, but again, I'd like to see them retest the 88.50 level first before doing that. All right, so dollar yen. This pair actually reacted beautifully off of our 114.50 level, which we had marked out, which is this like triple top thing in here. So markets came all the way up, bodies of the candles closed above it, rejected hard, and basically, you know, we sold off for about almost 200 pips, or actually over 200 pips. Yeah, about 250 pips sold off from there. So that's a nice movement that we've seen with this. Now, in terms of where they're going, I've got this daily ICT bullish order block, and the open, which I should move that to the high because it's literally off by 2 pips. So the open is 112.35, the high is 112.44. So no, it's not right. Sorry guys. The high is 111.65. The open is 111.62. So use 111.65 because again, that's the high of the candle. That's the closest to the current market price. So I'd like to see 111.65 down to potentially 111.40 hold as support. Okay, so if they're going to continue taking this thing lower, I want to see them either find support here or here, and either of those levels will basically give me the confirmation of, on the lower time frame, as long as we're getting, you know, it to show us support, you know, that would confirm to me that they're using the level. And at that point, first target for me would be the bearish order block of this low, which would be 113.50. And if we get above the 50% level of this candle, then I'd be looking for 114.50 up here. So, you know, really, like, you could pretty much exit a good portion at 113.50, and then, you know, keep a little portion, trail your stop, and then see if you can get above 114.50. And that's basically how I'd play this pair. But personally, I'm not trading this pair or anything like that. I'm mainly focused right now on Euro USD and GBP USD. I like trading those two pairs during the fall a lot. Dollar yen, it's nice, and it could be a very profitable pair, but I don't pay enough attention to this pair, and I don't really look at the markets too much during Asia session. So it's not really just like the pair that I choose particularly, but nonetheless, any of the majors are, you know, my recommendation for pairs to trade. Pick one, don't pick like 5, but just pick one major, stick with that, and, you know, really learn how it behaves. Because you'll find with this pair, and I've mentioned this a few times, you'll find with dollar yen, it doesn't necessarily follow dollar index, you know, such as like, you know, GBP USD or even Euro USD. Obviously, you guys can see the correlation between USD, so dollar index, as well as Euro USD. And then when you look at something like GBP USD right now, it's, you know, not as symmetrical when you're looking at it, right? It's not as clean or clear looking. But like if you look at dollar yen here, dollar yen on top, dollar index on the bottom. Like the markets in terms of price action, like it looks completely different, right? So, you know, that's just something to, like, you know, when you're trading dollar yen, you want to rely heavily on the technical analysis portion. You don't want to rely too much on like, you know, what is dollar index doing, and, you know, wait for that. But I use dollar index primarily because I'm a, you know, fiber and cable trader. So Euro USD and GBP USD are primarily the two pairs I trade. And, you know, those are heavily influenced by dollar index, as well as, you know, AUD USD and NZD USD. So keep an eye out on those, because they're very similar to Euro and GBP. They move, you know, very similar to each other, but in terms of the correlation with dollar index, you can see the influence it has on those pairs as well. But dollar yen, it's kind of one of those ones that could really be manipulated a lot on its own, and that's why it's best to learn and number one, learn the skill of trading, but really understand the technicals and the technical analysis behind these markets, because this pair is very, very respected in terms of technical analysis. So just keep an eye on that. But just to give you like an example, you can see we've got an ICT bullish order block here, market closes above it, new order block forms, market trades higher. New order block forms on the retest of this, market trades higher. New order block forms, retest of this, market trades higher. New order block. So as the market is trending, you'll see very beautiful, easy trade ideas. For here you were just trading off of bullish order blocks the whole way up, right? With the anticipated target of 1450, because that's where all the liquidity was. We had the triple top. So, when you're looking at this, just, I would rely on your ICT bullish and bearish order blocks, your break of structure, your retest, wait for the confirmation, all that stuff. But you don't have to look at dollar index so much and, just like wait for that confirmation like we do with Euro and GBP, because it's a little bit different. So I just wanted to make sure I, made that clear for those of you that do like to trade dollar yen. But overall for this, I'd like to see them trade higher, but first I'd like to see them come here to find support. So the technical side of this is the most recent support level. The market should logically trade to that, find some support, and from there we should see it trade higher. Whether we get above 114.50 or we stop at 113.50, that I don't know, right? That's just, you obviously have to be responsible with your trades, and that's why I say that once you get to 113.50, if you bought it down here at 111.50 and then you're targeting 113.50 and you've locked in 200 pips and you don't take off 90% of your trade here, you're really messing up, because they trade back up into this. This is an ICT bearish order block. They could trade up here and then they could reject. So that's why you want to remove the majority of your trade and trail your stop loss just in case that does happen, right? But more than likely, if they get up here, they'll probably run up for 114.50. But again, you can't, you never know what they're specifically gonna do until they get to that level and start showing you, what they're doing on a lower time frame, of what's really going on specifically in that chart. So that is dollar yen. Now let's move to Australian dollar. And this one I want to go back out to the weekly, because we mentioned this in last week's technicals. And you could see that we're forming weekly bearish order blocks, and then we keep retesting them, keep retesting them. So last week we had a little bullish week, but you have to remember the perspective and the bias time frame of higher time frame bias of what we're looking at here. So we're trading within a weekly ICT bearish order block, and we could see potential resistance there and see the market start to sell off. Where could that happen at? Well, we're going to mark out the 50% level, because that's one potential idea. 71.93. So I'm just going to go ahead and use 71.90 because it's literally closer to price. It's 3 pips closer. And it's also an even number. So I don't like using like 71.93. I'd rather just round down to 71.90 versus, trying to remember 71.93. So 50% of the level of the ICT bearish order block would be my invalidation level for bearish ideas. So if we get back above this, it's likely we'll want to start running higher, but as long as we stay below there, we should see some sort of weakness in Australian dollar, as long as dollar index is also trading higher as well. So I just wanted to mark that out on a weekly perspective. Now we'll drop down to a daily, and as you can see, I'm going to change the color of this. That was from a while ago. All right, so we've got our 50% level marked out right here, which comes in at the 71.90 level. And I've also got this low marked out, which comes in at 71.45. Okay, all right. So 71.45, 71.40 to 71.45. We could see the market find some resistance there, which I would like to see that because we do have an ICT bearish breaker. Market traded down, traded all the way back up, hit the 50% level of this order block here, formed a high, came all the way back up, cleared the liquidity, and then sold off. So the fact that we got below this low, I'm under the impression that they're going to hold this level, so 71.40 to 71.50. I'm expecting them to just keep that as resistance. We shouldn't really see them go too much above that if this thing is going to continue lower. Now, if it's going to continue higher, something we do need to consider is we have this down candle before this up move. It's not an ICT bullish order block yet. Now, if we can close somewhere up here, then it's a valid ICT bullish order block. But as of right now, we have not closed above the high, so it's not a valid order block. So you can still mark out the open in the 50% level and see if it actually holds as support. But, 9 out of 10 times, it is not as strong, and I never consider it a valid order block unless the bullish or bearish candle has traded and closed above it. So in this case, we would need a bullish candle to close above this bearish candle, validating it as a bullish order block, but we have not seen that. So since we have not seen that, we have to assume that they're either going to take it lower or we're just going to wait. Okay, so they could take it higher, but what do we have to justify a bullish idea in here? Right, we've got a turtle soup, we've got a potential daily order block. We don't know if it is yet. So we've got a few things, but nothing in my eyes that's super high probability yet. If you look at the weekly, higher time frame, we're bearish. We're seeing lower lows, lower highs. So in my opinion, we could very well just start trading lower from here. Form another lower low, take us below the the 70.50 level or the 70.50 level. So if you're trading Australian dollar, I would be focused primarily on sell scenarios up until the point they get above 7,200. If they get back above 7,200, then you may want to switch your idea to bullish. But as long as they're below that, honestly, I think we'll see weaker prices. So they can come all the way up to 7,200, retest it, and then sell off. But most high probability scenario, in my opinion, would be staying between 71.40 to 71.50 as potential resistance, and then selling off from there. So that is it for Australian dollar. New Zealand dollar, as you can see, this one we obviously have a daily ICT bullish order block. So something, let's go ahead and do this. Let's pull up AUD NZD. We're going to use it, just how we use Euro GBP. Okay, we're going to use it as basically a directional analysis, figure out which pair is AUD USD or is NZD USD the better buy or sell opportunity. Which one would align with dollar index? What are we looking at basically, right? Let me grab a sip of water. One sec, guys. So on the bottom, we've got AUD NZD. On the top, we've got NZD USD. If you look at this pair here, what is NZD USD doing? They got a high back here. They got a low here, but it didn't trade lower than this low. So it would not be a lower low. Mainly, this thing is just consolidating, right? So we're not really seeing too much. If I had to guess, which way is it going to go? Is it going to go higher or lower? I would think that AUD USD is going to go lower because they have not taken out the liquidity below here yet, which is at 1.0850. It's relatively equal lows. So if they decide to take this pair lower, shit. Fuck. I don't know what just happened. If they decide to take this pair lower, damn it. Alright. Sorry guys. If they decide to take this pair lower, what does that mean for NZD USD? Strength, right? Because if AUD NZD is dropping, that means AUD is weaker than NZD, which means NZD is stronger than AUD. Okay, so now looking at the NZD USD chart, and you think about it with a little bit more context, we've got a down candle here. Same thing we just seen on AUD USD, but did AUD USD give us the validation, the confirmation of the order block? No. This one does. So we've got a down candle, then we got a big bullish candle that closes above the down candle, validating this down candle as what? A newly formed ICT daily bullish order block. So what do we need to do? First thing, we need to mark out the high. And this is blue. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this red line, because all this red line is outlining is the low of this weekly ICT bearish order block. So again, just like AUD USD, we're seeing the same thing, lower prices with NZD USD. But when you look at it on a daily perspective, that's why I said that we really have to wait, right? Because all of the majors most of them are at key levels. This could be the early signs of a potential reversal for NZD USD. I don't know though. I don't know until I get some confirmation and more data in the charts. Right now, all I've got is an ICT bullish order block and a low. So I've got a low, then I've got an ICT bullish order block. I don't know if they're going to use this as support. I don't know that yet. So I have to wait. If they decide to use it as support, then we know what? They're buying this market. So what can we do then? Wait for another daily bullish order block and then buy it there, right? So that's what you're going to want to be focused on, like especially if you're looking at pairs like Euro, GBP, AUD, NZD. Look at the cross pairs to figure out which would be the better opportunity. So now, after I've looked at the cross pair, AUD, NZD, I can take a look at AUD USD and NZD USD, and more than likely, I would like to be a buyer of NZD USD if dollar index shows weakness. If dollar index shows strength, I would want to be a seller of AUD USD, right? Because why? Because if AUD NZD is pushing lower, that's going to mean weakness for AUD. If USD is pushing higher, that's going to mean weakness for foreign currency. So then, what would be the better pair to trade? AUD USD. So that's why I would do it that way. And I always like to look at AUD NZD or Euro GBP. I don't like go through and do a full breakdown and markup, every single level or nothing crazy. I just really give it kind of like an overview, and really just get the higher time frame bias. I'm just looking, are they making higher highs and higher lows, or are they making lower lows and lower lows on the daily and on the weekly? Once I get that information, I pretty much get rid of those charts, because that's all I need from them. If they're making lower lows and lower highs, it's weak. If they're making higher highs and higher lows and higher highs, I know it's strong. And it's that simple, right? That's how you tell the difference between bullish. That's how you tell the difference between bearish. That simple. Don't overcomplicate it and think about too much, because that's, at the end of the day, all you're looking for. So here, so far, we've got a low. Then we've got a high here. So if they trade back and find support within this bullish order block, that would be what? A higher low. We still don't buy it. We have to wait for them to confirm that they're buying it, wait for it to make another higher high, and then we can buy on the next order block. So just to give you guys a quick little demonstration of what that would look like, say this is the higher low point. So say they use this specific level they've already traded into for support. They trade up, they get above this candle. On the retest of this candle, which would be a valid ICT bullish order block if we get another bullish candle closing above this. On the retest of this, we can buy it and look for higher prices here. But we have to wait for the move up first. Okay, we can't just buy it here because we don't know if they're going to use this as support. Okay, so if I switch the idea now, this is why it's good to look at the market from both angles, because we just talked about potential bullish idea, but how do we know it's not going to find resistance and trade lower? This was support, market traded up, market now traded through that, and we're retesting that. So this could be, break of structure, retest, old support becomes resistance. How do we know that's not the case, right? So that's why we need to wait and see what do they do off this bullish order block. Do they find support there? Because if that's the case, they're pushing above this high, which validates buyers and the market. If they just trade through here, we know that it's bearish. They just retested this level and they're going to continue lower. So, that's how I analyze these markets, right? I basically build a case and build an idea for both sides. What's going to happen if they're bullish? What's going to happen if they're bearish? Okay, which is the best opportunity out of that? And then that's basically all I do. From there, then I just go in, mark up my charts, figure out, my charts are usually already marked up, but I'm just waiting for the level to get hit. Once that happens, bam, take the trade. It's that simple, guys. But you really just have to make sure that you're waiting, right? Because so many people, I know that this happens because this is how I was. If I talk about the market trading in this ICT bullish order block, you're thinking, okay, why don't I just buy it now? Why don't I just buy it now? And if he thinks it's going to go all the way back up to 67.20, I can make 220 pips. Why not just buy it now? Because by buying it now, you're exposing yourself to all of this risk. From here all the way down to this low. I shouldn't use that because people will probably think I'm using trend lines. So if this market just trades lower from here, what do we have? They're showing us weakness, right? So you don't know if that's actually gonna happen yet if you just buy it now. So you gotta wait. Waiting for the confirmation is the key. That's what most people are missing in trading. And honestly, once I got more patient and developed that discipline, that's when my trading changed. So if that's something that you're struggling with, I really recommend listening to the things I'm saying in terms of being patient and waiting for the level. Because some people may get mad, oh, he doesn't trade every day or anything like that. Guys, if you're waiting, your chances of being correct are much higher. This is why I don't even know the percentage, but I'm sure it's over 75 or 80%, for trades that we win. The reason because that is the only reason because of that is the fact that I wait. I simply just wait. Once I get the confirmation, I know. There's a lot more behind it if you wait for that. So you want to make sure that you're always waiting for the confirmation. That is a big, big, big key. So keep an eye on NZD. We could see a potential reversal unfolding if we do find some support here. Okay, so last one, dollar CAD. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not expect this much of a bullish run back up on dollar CAD. I was kind of looking at this and I'm thinking okay, they've already cleared the low below here. They left this big gap. It looked like it was, gaining some momentum on the downside personally. So I was thinking they may come back up, fill in this little gap, because if you see they got a little gap here, and they don't always fill in the gaps, but sometimes, or most of the time I should say, they like to fill in the gap and then they'll continue. So they could have came up, filled this gap, and then sold off. And that's kind of what I was expecting, but we did not see that. This pair is showing, I don't want to say tons of strength because it's not, but it's showing some significant strength. So this dotted line is the 50% level of this. Let me actually, I want to make sure I'm giving you guys the correct thing here. Okay, so it looks like it's a little off, not really calibrated perfectly, but basically what I had mapped out was the 50% level of the up move here, because we had this 1, 2, this is a small little down candle kind of, but I just included it. 1, 2, 3, 5 days worth of up movement, and I mapped out this with the fibs, and then the 50% level comes in about here, and basically I was looking at this as a potential bearish order block. So once we traded through it, came back up to it here, I was thinking, oh, they could find some resistance, but no, we did not get that. We had an explosive move up, and we're now above the bodies here. So for dollar CAD, assuming that we get dollar index strength, I would expect this pair to continue higher as well. First target for me would be this high, so 30.80, about 60 pips from where we're at, and then this low here, which is 31.09, and from there I would be looking for a run on this liquidity above here. And if we can get more strength from there, look for the 33 big figure, and that's pretty much what I'd be looking for right now. We got these relative equal highs here, but I'm not going to really worry about that until we can really show some more strength above here. But this candle that we seen on Friday, Thursday, Wednesday was pretty nice. So curious to see what we get from this. Is it going to be a lower high and will we continue lower, or is this going to be, you know, the start of you know, potential higher prices for dollar CAD? So, you know, for this, I'd kind of treat it like dollar yen right now. I'd really wait and get a little bit more clarity. I'd be focused more on, so the pairs that I'm particularly focused on right now is Euro, GBP, Australian dollar, and New Zealand dollar. The reason that I'm looking at AUD and NZD this week as well is if there is nothing in Euro and GBP, they decide to consolidate, whatever, you know, I'm willing to dabble with AUD and NZD. Now, those two pairs aren't really my specialty or cup of tea. Like, it's not something that I'm trading every day, so I'm not gonna like sit here and act like I know everything that those pairs do, the times, all that stuff, like I do for Euro and GBP. But if for some reason I just don't see any trades and can't find anything on Euro and GBP, then what we'll be looking for is any potential trade ideas on Australian dollar or New Zealand dollar. So just keep a lookout for that just in case, but primarily I want to be focused on Euro and GBP if I can, but nonetheless, if I can't, then I have those two as backups. But dollar yen and dollar CAD for the week, personally, I'm sticking away from them. I want to get some more clarity. They're both kind of in a consolidation. Now, dollar CAD does look like it wants to push up higher to me over dollar yen with current price action with where they're at. But really, I can't trust neither of them right now. They're both just kind of sitting tight and, you know, in a consolidation. So until I get more clarity, then I'll, you know, really know what to do with these two pairs, but mainly sitting aside for those two. So that is it for the weekly technicals, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out for, about an hour. So appreciate you guys for hanging out, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now, and then I will answer any questions that you guys have.